We have entered that time in the calendar known as the football dead zone. The season is close enough that you could taste it, but it's still too far away to make real predictions. So we take in those precious moments with our families before our minds go elsewhere for 4 to 5 months. And while we wait for the players to finish their vacations and report to camp, we here at DAT are beginning a new series on Mondays where we will rank the most 15 important Saints of 2026. And we'll start with a couple of defensive players and a skill position player who on offense maybe catches a little bit too much grief. And since it's Mano E Monday, of course, we'll spend much of the morning asking you what you think. So let's go get rolling with our new time and a fresh outlook here on the Dattitude podcast, which starts right now.
Ready to hear the straight scoop on local and national sports? It's time for Jim Derry's take on the Saints, LSU, what betting lines to ponder, and more. He's got opinions, he's got insight, and he's got Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
What is up, Dattitude family? Y'all are going to have to excuse me if you catch me yawning. Oh, man. It is a new era for us here, and we are so glad you're coming along for the ride on Dattitude. Episode number 518, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Monday, June the 29th, 2026. Our final show in June, and you know what that means. We're just a little less than a month from training camp. July is when football, I can't say it really starts, I guess. July is when you really start getting fired up. July is when you really can feel it, right? That's when you feel like it's starting. It feels like it's getting going. So our final show in June as we move on during this big this isn't a regular 4th of July week. This is a big 4th of July week, 250. I know there are a few of you out there who, like me, who are old enough to remember the bicentennial. I am old enough to, I'm not saying I like remember everything about it in the details and, it was whatever this day. And I did that. For some reason, I remember looking at and it goes to show with my background. I remember staring at the front page of the paper at the Times-Picayune that day, back in 1976, when I was such a young pup about to turn 8 years old. I remember staring at the paper and being at my grandparents' house. That's what I remember most about the bicentennial, but I remember so much leading up to it. Seems like maybe there isn't as much leading up to 250, but you would have. I won't be here for 300. Gabe's going to have to telepathically through the cosmos tell me about 300. He's going to be old. He'll be an old man by then. I don't know. Maybe UBN will still be here, old and crotchety. Who knows? But I definitely will not be here. I will not be here at 107, almost 108 years old. So we're going to enjoy this July 4th week. Y'all got any plans for the big week? We'll talk maybe more about that on Thursday. We're trying to work on. We're trying to see what's going. It's so hot. So don't talk about the weather, Derek. It's so hot. Anyway, it's not hot at 9 a.m. I'm surprised how many people actually said they were happy about the change and moving to 9 a.m. We'll see if that's true here this morning, if the numbers are similar to what they normally are on a Monday morning. And look, it's so hard to judge anyway, because this is the time of year when we have our I was telling this to Gabe before we got started. This is the time of year when we have the least amount of viewers anyway, because it's hard to get fired up. You're kind of like, how fired up do you want to be? You just got through the draft and the schedule and all that stuff, and you got through mini camp, and now you got the players are on vacation and they're gone for 4 weeks. I was looking at NOLA.com. They haven't had hardly any updates of the past 10 days because their guys are mostly on vacation too. So this is the time of year when football writers, except for Nick Underhill, I don't think that guy ever takes a vacation. My friend Mike Triplett, I don't know if he's taking a vacation either, but this is the time of year when most people like us take vacation. I didn't take as much as I normally take, and as most of you know, you're wondering what I'm doing here at 9 a.m. If you weren't here Friday, this is our new time slot, new days, Monday and Thursday going from here on out, except during football season, it will be Monday, Thursday, and we'll have a pregame show for the Saints on Sunday mornings, and maybe an LSU Tulane wrap-up on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. But this is our new time slot as I begin my new job Next week, going back to the Times-Picayune again, this time covering news in St. Tammany Parish, if you didn't hear my news last week. So that's why we're on at 9 a.m. That's why we're going to be Monday and Thursday from now, changing our days from Monday, Wednesday, Friday to Monday, Thursday, and then during football season, Monday, Thursday, and Sunday morning. In case you're new here, I am Jim Derry, nearly 36 years of the New Orleans sports media scene. I thank you so much for spending part of your day with us. Welcome to the Dat family. If you want to run the members, Gabe, as I remind everyone about the best thing they can do to help us out here at Dattitude to become part of the Dat family, first, just subscribe. If you have not yet subscribed to the Dattitude podcast on YouTube, please do so. Just takes a second. Subscribe. We're trying to get to 5,000 before the end of the calendar year. We go in spurts. We had a really good May. June, of course, took vacation, so kind of a little bit slow getting going. But all the names you see at the bottom there, they are also Dattitude members. They have subscribed to they have not only subscribed, but they have become Dat family members, and they have access to our Slack channel and other things that we do here on Dat. Anyway, I thank you so much for your support. Give us a like if you can. If you want to talk to me after the fact, I know some of you, it may take you a while to catch on to our new time, and you want to catch up with me, you can find me on X, either at Jim Derry Jr., or you can email me at jim@jimderry.com. What is different about our show? You talk to us, we talk back to you, especially on Monday when it's Mano E Monday, and it's just us, it's just me, it's Gabe, and you, the guest. We take all your comments and questions, and especially when it comes to whatever the topic of the day is. The topic of the day is, before we get to it real quick, I just want to say, I'm going to give a shout out. I'm going to give Gabe some props because, y'all know that I'm not a huge soccer fan at all. I played soccer. I coached it for a little bit, but as far as watching it, I can't get into it that much. But I got to say, World Cup is fun. Yesterday, I thought the Canada-South Africa match was intense, exciting. If you didn't watch it, man, Canada had so many chances to score. South Africa did a fantastic job on defense, and then the Canadians score in the final. I think it was either an extra time or right before extra time started. Amazing finish. It was fun to watch. A 0-0 game. My son had bet the under in South Africa. He was all excited about the under part of it, and then Canada scored, and he got not quite as excited there towards the end. But anyway, if you're not watching it, you should watch it. Wednesday, the Americans play, I believe, at 5 o'clock Central Time. And if they win that game, they beat Bosnia-Herzegovina, they will play on it's at 5 o'clock, right? That's what 6 o'clock Eastern, I think. You sure? That TV said 6 Eastern yesterday. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what TV said yesterday. Anyway, so check your local listings. I know that if they win that game, they will play on the 4th of July in Houston against the Netherlands-Morocco winner. So that is our World Cup update of the day, and it's time to move on. What is on today's show? You know what is on today's show. We're going to talk about the Saints, and we are starting a new series today. Our series is going to be every Monday, beginning today, and for the next 4 weeks after today. The next 4 Mondays after today, it will go run through July 27th. And what we're going to do is we're going to do something I had started on SI before I left. Technically, tomorrow is my last day on SI, but it is what it is. But a series I had begun on SI, I was doing the top 25 most important Saints in 2026, and it got cut off. As I said, beginning a new job, I left on SI, so I'm going to finish it here. And we're going to do our top 15, our 15 most important Saints. We're doing them in threes, in groups of threes. So today we have, again, as I said earlier, we have 2 defensive players, and we have an offensive player who I don't want to say was much maligned in 2025, but he probably got a little bit more grief than he deserved. We're going to get into some of the numbers of all 3 of these players. And that leads into our poll question before we get started today. And before I tell you about my friends. So can you share the poll question real quick, Gabe? The poll question of today, and we'd love you to vote if you can, and then we're going to run this multiple times throughout the day. Which of today's top 15 most important players, okay, the most important Saints of 2026, which one do you think is, and if you want to vote after the fact, just because it won't necessarily count in the poll, please, by all means, comment if you're watching later on. I'd love to read your comment, and we'll talk about it as well. Today's question, which of the most important players, the top 15, are the most important to this team? We got number 15, Carl Granderson. Juwan Johnson is number 14. Kool-Aid McKinstry is number 13. So which one of these today's top 15 is most important? Type in the number 1 if you say it's Carl Granderson is the most important of these 3 guys. Type in the number 2 if you think it's Juwan Johnson is the most important of these 3 guys. Or type in the number 3 if you think it's Kool-Aid McKinstry. Which one of these 3 is most important to you? Which one do you think is most important to the Saints? And it's funny. We've got it right as we get started here very quickly, one of each. Gabe, you want to vote for me? I'm going to vote here because I don't always vote, but I'm going to vote in this one because I think it's significant. And again, I don't want to spend too much time, but I'm going to vote, Gabe, for Kool-Aid McKinstry. And I'm going to tell you why I'm going to vote for Kool-Aid McKinstry. I don't want to sway the poll or anything. Sometimes I vote and sometimes I don't. I reserve the right. But today, I am going to vote. I'm going to vote for Kool-Aid McKinstry. And again, I will tell you why in just a minute. But anyway, before we move on, again, today's poll question, we're certainly going to come back to it right after the break here. But which of the top most important, 15 most important Saints of 2026 is most important to this team this year? Type in 1 for Carl Granderson, 2 for Juwan Johnson, 3 for Kool-Aid McKinstry. And you got plenty of time to vote. But we're going to take it off the screen because I got to tell you about my friends at Evangeline Securities. And, of course, they're a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can figure out what that business is worth. If that's you, someone you know, someone you love, it's time to reach out to Evangeline's founding partner, Nick Braden. He will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from his office either on Poydras Street or in Lafayette. And from there, you'll be well informed to begin to make the decision on if you want to proceed. What happens after that? You'll have to wait a little bit. We'll fill you in more later in the show. In the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. And you know what? You can also check out my friend Joe DiStefano. Your small company needs some insurance? Listen to what I have to say about Joe. If you own a small business of fewer than 20 employees, you know how tough it is to get the best rates on health insurance. That's why you want to call Joe DiStefano Insurance. Joe and I have known each other for almost 40 years. I can tell you that he's someone that I trust. Look, health insurance shouldn't be one size fits all. And with Joe DiStefano, you get access to PPO networks and flexible plans designed to fit you, not just a cookie cutter mold. Joe's licensed, he's local, but he can help you no matter where you live and operate. From preventative care to peace of mind, we'll tailor a plan that works for your life today and tomorrow. Call Joe DiStefano at 504-234-2132 to protect what matters most. Let's get this show on the road on this Mano E Monday. Oh, man. You know, I look at some of these comments and I see the time, and one of them starts with an 8. Oh, my goodness. What are we doing on the air so early? UBN's first. Of course he is. He was up at like 3 a.m. Good morning, Dad family. Rise and shine. Good morning. That's right. Well, we won't have any more afternoon. I won't be able to say good afternoon anymore. I won't be able to say morning into the afternoon anymore. Charles Mangus, good morning. Welcome. I did not hear this, Charles. Chris Johnson, former running back, has been diagnosed with ALS. Only 40 years old. Very sad. I did not hear that. Very sad to hear that. Former 2,000-yard rusher. Not hear that. Good morning, Rocky. Monday morning. I don't know if it was harder because it's our first show at 9 a.m. or because it's Monday or a combination of the two. It was not easy to get up, but I was busy this weekend, so maybe that was part of it. I don't know. Callie is here on this early Monday morning, at least early for us. Good morning, Who Dat Nation, everybody. Saint for Life is here on a Monday morning. Who Dat, baby? What else we got here? What are y'all talking about? Oh, you were talking about 1976. Alvin was a junior in high school. I was in the third grade. Yeah. I was going into the second. Long story. I was going into the second grade, but I finished the year in the third grade. Don't get me started. Rocky, his 49th birthday is Sunday. Well, happy early birthday. So what is that, July the 5th? Happy early birthday. What is that? Capricorn? What is that? Cancer? What are you? I used to know them all by heart. No, not Capricorn. That's in the fall. Cancer, I think, right? Whatever. Happy birthday. Adam Varner, good morning. Excited for the early time. You know what? I think once I get used to it, I think it's going to be better for all of us. Sav's talking about the interview with Chris Johnson and Michael Strahan revealing his. So this came out this morning. I did not see this. That is terrible news. I'm very sorry to hear that. Yeah, man, that's terrible. You want to share the poll again, Gabe? Because we have one. Let's jump into some of these things here. The poll question again today is I'm expecting we won't have as many answers today because we're probably not going to have as many viewers. I know, first of all, this is the time of year when we get the least viewers anyway. Second of all, switching from 11 a.m. to 9 a.m., people are going to have to get used to our new time. So I'm fully expecting we won't have as many viewers today, and we won't have as many poll answers. However, again, if you're watching this show after the fact, I would love for you to still comment on the stream. Please do. Comment your answer here, even if it's not included in the official poll. But which of today's 15 players, which of today's top 3, we got number 15, Carl Granderson, number 14, Juwan Johnson, number 13, Kool-Aid McKinstry. Which one of those players is most important, do you think, to the Saints this year? Apathy says Carl Granderson. By the way, Apathy, if you want to vote, if you want your vote to count, also type in just the number 1. If you type in anything after it, it's not going to count. So just the number 1 if that's what you want. So number 1 if you want Carl Granderson. Number 2 if you want Juwan Johnson. Type in the number 3 if you want Kool-Aid. Apathy says he's picking Carl Granderson because if he becomes a 10-plus sack guy, it's less time to expose your DBs. That makes sense. That's not what I would pick, but that makes sense. I'm going to tell you why. You can leave it up for a minute. I'm going to tell you, and Kool-Aid McKinstry is winning this thing right now. I'm going to tell you why I would pick Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think this is and we're going to get into we're going to get into each one separately in just a minute. But I think Kool-Aid McKinstry in this very shallow secondary for the Saints, I think it's the area of most concern for this team. They have the least amount of depth. Kool-Aid McKinstry took a big step up last year. I didn't realize how big of a step he took up until I started diving into the numbers last night. But I think he's the most important. To me, he doesn't have to be the Marshawn Lattimore of 6-7 years ago, but I think he needs to take another big step up. We'll see. Ryan O'Shea says, good morning. If Juwan Johnson is one of the 3 today, he 100% deserved all the grief he got for his play in the first half of the season. Very good second half. I don't understand that, Ryan. You mean because he's the 14th most important? I mean, the 14th most important player is pretty important. You got a 52-man roster. I would say the 14th most important player on your team. I mean, you got 11 starters on each side. So let's just say they were even, you had 7 and 7, and he was the 7th most important player on offense. That's pretty important. I think that's what you're getting at. Not 100% sure. Anyway, Ryan votes on Kool-Aid. Brother from the 318 is here. Who dat? Good morning. Jerry's here on its early Monday morning. Oh, it's early for me anyway. Hart says he agrees it's Kool-Aid. He thinks they're making Kool-Aid's corner at CB1. No question that he is, which makes him the most important defensive back. Plus, CB depth is center, tight end, and pass rusher. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. I think you and I are on the same page. It is. All right, I was right. July the 5th is cancer. Okay. UBN says he was up at 2:29 a.m. I'm sorry I shorted you by 31 minutes. Alvin says he likes the time for the podcast, and then he doesn't miss lunch. I mean, now, also during the summer, you tractor rod and lawn cutters. We got more. I guarantee you this show has more tractor rod and lawn cutters than anyone else per capita. Just saying. It's easier to listen to the Dattitude podcast cutting grass at 9 a.m. Central Time than it is at 11 a.m. when it's 96 degrees, right? Adam says he's picking Juwan Johnson. He has the potential to be one of the best tight ends when the ball is thrown well to him. He is deadly. Look, all three of these guys are important. Obviously, they're in the top 15. All three of these guys. Again, we're going to get into each one of them. We're going to get into each one of them individually. I don't get this one either. I'm not trying to give you grief. I don't. At the time I wrote that, you said unwarranted grief. Oh, okay. All right. Let's pull down the poll question because I want to get into each one, and I want you guys to, and ladies, if the ladies that are here this morning. All right. Let's talk about, let's start with number 15. I'm going to start with Carl Granderson. And the question I have this morning about Carl Granderson at number 15, and maybe this is a little low, actually. When you start thinking about how important Carl Granderson is, I might have had him a little bit higher had Cam Jordan decided not to come back. Does it and I want you guys, and again, ladies, if you're here, does it take the pressure off of Carl Granderson? Does it take some of the pressure off of him with Cam Jordan coming back? Now, Carl Granderson is starting to get, I don't want to say long in the tooth, but when you're entering your 8th season, how much time do you have left? You know? As a defensive end, not everybody's Cam Jordan. Okay, Cam Jordan's entering what is it, his 16th season? I can't remember if it was 16th or 17th. That's an anomaly, man. We all know that. Okay, for the most part, when you're hitting your like 10th, 11th season, you're starting to think about the end. So Carl Granderson, while we're asking, does it take the pressure off him? It's not like he's this young kid ready to step up. No, he's been around for a while. But that being said, he's had his 3 best seasons the last 3 years. The only problem, if you want to find one, the only maybe negative, if you want to find one, is he had his best year in 23, and then he kind of took a little step back in 24 and 25, just a little bit. 2024 and 2025 was still better than the first few years. But overall, he's had his best 3 years. And not only that with Carl Granderson, another thing that's really important is for the 3rd straight season last year, he played in all 17 games, which is important. So, look, again, also with Granderson, and the reason why I'm looking forward to him is because he's probably going to play more snaps than Cam Jordan, wouldn't you think? I think he did last year. He played more of a percentage of snaps. He's going to be – now, a lot of times they list Cam Jordan as the starter just because he's Cam Jordan. And I think that a similar thing may be the case this year. Is that the way it's going to play out? I don't know. But, again, a lot of times you list the guy as a starter because of who he is, but Carl Granderson ended up getting more snaps. I think that's going to be the case again this year. Also, quarterback hits with Granderson. I think that's a key. 60% of his quarterback hits have come in the last 3 seasons. Now, again, he had 20 of them in 2023, and I believe he's had 22 combined in the last 2 years. So those numbers have taken a little bit of a dip. But it goes, again, this is before Chase. If you go back to 2023, was Chase Young here? I don't think Chase Young was here yet, was he? That was, and here we do, live TV. Dun, 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 dun. We're doing this on live TV. 2023, yeah, he was still in San Francisco. So there was no Chase Young here. So it was a much larger role for Carl Granderson in 2023. Hart says Granderson has always been a solid player. Not sure he's hitting 10 sacks. Well, he's never hit 10 sacks in his career before, so I don't think he needs to, Hart. I mean, if he gets to 8 sacks, if he gets to 7 or 8 sacks, I think everybody's going to be pretty happy, pretty fired up with Chase Granderson. He says he could set up Chase Young or just get pressure to impact plays 100%. And I think that's his main role, right? I think when you look at Granderson, I think that's the main role he's going to play. That he has to set up Chase Young. He has to be able to stay healthy because the more he stays healthy, the less time Cam Jordan at age 37 is going to have to play. That's what you want to see. So anyway, I think that's why we have Carl Granderson in there at number 15. Before we move on to the next player, I know, Mark, you got a couple of comments here. Let's see. Well, going to show this from Hart first as we move on. Juwan Johnson struggled with Rattler. In fact, you know what? Let's. I'm going to come back to this. Let's move on to Juwan Johnson because I'm going to spend a little more time talking about Juwan Johnson than maybe the other two. And so here's your chance to say what you got to say about Juwan Johnson. Was he too much maligned? Did Juwan Johnson get too much grief in 2025? Because I kind of think he did. Okay, I'm going to give you some of his numbers. And going back to what Ryan was talking about earlier, if you remember the first half of the season, he did have a couple of drops, but not nearly as many as people were saying. He missed some passes, no question. But he ended up having by far his best season in 2020 overall. He was much better with Shuck than he was with Rattler. So leads into Hart's comment, and actually Mark has a comment that kind of relates to this. I'm going to show it. But Hart says, Juwan Johnson struggled with Rattler, but seemed to have a better connection with Shuck. Curious how they divvy up the rotation with him, Fant, and Delp. Now, that's Delp, first of all, I think is going to probably spend more time. Whatever time he plays, he's going to play in 3 tight end sets. Probably not going to play a whole lot in 2 tight end sets. I think you're going to see Delp probably more as a pass blocker in this first year as he kind of gets adjusted. What role is Noah Fant going to play? That's going to be an interesting situation, by the way. It's going to take catches from Johnson. And you look at some of the stats he had last year, played in another player that's been healthy. So we talk about Carl Granderson playing 3 straight years, all 17 games. Juwan Johnson has now done it in 2 straight years. He's entering his 7th season. This is, to me, if last year was sort of the breakout season, this is the year where you want to see him at the bare minimum. Again, even though you have 2 more tight ends in the fold, because Foster Moreau ended up spending almost the whole year hurt. Yeah, and you had a rotating door at tight end too last year. So Juwan Johnson kind of had to do it. Does it take away from his? I don't think so. Again, best year by far last year. As you go into your 7th season, to me, this is kind of the year you want to see him stay at that same number or pretty close to his number. 77 catches for 889 yards and 3 touchdowns. His previous best was the year before that. Listen how different this is. 77 catches last year, 50 catches in 2024, which was his previous best. 889 yards in 2025, 548 in 2024. Again, his previous best. So he obviously took a huge next step. A lot of it did have to do with Tyler Shuck. I don't know. Getting back to Juwan Johnson in just a minute, but I'm going to show this comment. Again, I think you're serious. The Mark Satanovich, the huge Rattler lover, is asking to trade Rattler and Kamara ASAP. You're not going to get anything for Spencer Rattler. And he also says the Rat should be QB2 instead of Zach Morris from BYU. You mean Zach Wilson. Zach Morris was on Saved by the Bell. But neither here nor there. I mean, maybe Zach Wilson is a good actor. Maybe he's a better actor than a quarterback. Who knows? That's why I never know whether you're I mean, honestly, I never know whether you're trolling or you're just like Gabe says Zach Morris probably better quarterback. Maybe Zach Morris. No, it was Slater that was the football player. So maybe Jesse Slater would be a better quarterback, or AC Slater. I'm sorry, not Jesse Slater. Boy, we're getting off on a tangent this morning. See what trolling can do for me? But first of all, if you're semi being serious, you're not going to get anything for Rattler. We've said this before. And Kamara, it is what it is. Can we go a whole show without really getting into Kamara today? I think we might be able to. Ryan O'Shea says the entire team and coaching staff was bad at the jobs with Rattler. I don't deny that. I agree with you. But again, Ryan, going back in the last year, and again, I don't know. This is not really a topic I wanted to talk about today, but since you commented on it, I think it's a fair comment to talk about. The problem last year with Rattler was that he was in a no-win situation, right? But they did that on purpose. Not anything against Rattler, I don't think, but they did not want to throw Tyler Shuck to the wolves, okay? You also had Kellen Moore as a rookie coach, and I thought that he was below average at best the first 6 to 8 games. And it wasn't just because the schedule lightened up and Tyler Shuck came in, but Kellen Moore obviously started feeling things and felt better about things as they went along. So I agree with you, Ryan. I don't think that the coaching staff did a very good job while Spencer Rattler was in there. However, that being said, I also don't think that Spencer Rattler was, I think we've seen enough to know that this, in my opinion, and again, I don't want to crawl down this rabbit hole because people get mad when I say this kind of stuff. And I'm not trying to piss anybody off. I think we've seen enough to know that he's just not ever going to be a starter in this league. If he is one day, I'll say I'm sorry and I was wrong. But I don't think that's going to be the case. UBN, thank you so much. $50 super chat just to talk about Saved by the Bell. Awesome. Thank you, UBN. He says Zach was an a-hole, horrible friend. You know who's not a horrible friend? UBN. I guarantee you. You know what? You're right, UBN, because I'm going to tell you this. He says golf is good. You know what else, UBN? I will tell you this. I guarantee you if Slater had a podcast, Zach Morris would not give him $50 like every show. There is zero doubt in my mind Zach Morris wouldn't be given. Zach Morris could be like the richest person, would have never gave him Slater any money. Ever. So I think you're right. Going back to Granderson, Hart says Granderson has always been good at those plays that don't show up in the stat sheet. Very undervalued for sure. Jerry talks about how staying fully healthy is the key. No doubt. And that's why all three of these players, knock on table here, this was a complete coincidence, by the way, when I put these three together. I did all the I spent a lot of time putting these rankings together, by the way, for On SI, which is another reason why I kind of want to finish it here on Dat. Because I spent enough time putting these players together. I can't wait to go along and see if you agree, especially when we go along and we get further and you're going to say, wait a minute, you put Juwan Johnson behind X or you put this player behind Z or whatever. So it's hard to see when you see 15, 14, and 13. And then later on, anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Oh, Mark asking about Mitchell Robinson is going to sign with the Pelicans. I doubt it seriously. However, let's see if maybe we can, I would love to get Mitchell Robinson on the show. Maybe we'll try. I'll reach out to him. As I've told you many times, I've covered him in high school. Great dude. I almost called him a great kid because that's how I know him. But we'll see. Maybe we can get him on. Maybe we can get he and his former coach, Butch Stockton, on this show. Maybe I'll reach out to them during this week. And I'll reach out to one potential guest who can't come on the show this Thursday. I didn't get a chance to read his response. I just saw he couldn't do it. So trying to get Mike to tell you on the show, but we will have Mike on the show soon. I promise. I was on his show last week. Steel Bill, who dat, baby? Shane Bergeron. Well, yeah, Shane, I haven't seen you in a little bit. You haven't been around a little bit. Maybe you've been watching after the fact. Talking about Juwan Johnson. He said he had some bad drops early, but he made some damn good circus catches. He did. He was a favorite of Shucks. Absolutely. Adam Varner talking about Shuck is a more accurate passer. That makes him a major difference with the receivers. Shuck has better timing and rhythm than Rattler. You know what? I'm going to say this, Adam. I think in the long run that's going to be true. I don't know if you look at their numbers, and here we go, live TV again. And again, small sampler size, right? Very small sample size. But you look at Tyler Shuck's completion percentage. It was 676. Okay, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. So maybe you're going to be right here. Maybe you're going to be proven right. How much different is it than Rattler? No, it's really last year in 8 games, Rattler was 677. So almost exactly the same. So, and that was much better than the year before. He was not good in 2024, but he got thrown in the Wolves. He went 0-6 against a tough schedule. He was only 57% in 2024, so that takes his career number down. But comparing Spencer Rattler last year to Tyler Shuck last year, They were the same, accuracy-wise. And again, look, in the Rats' defense, I want to be fair. You know I like to be fair here. He had a much tougher end of the schedule. Other than the Rams, I mean, Talishuk really didn't play anybody that was that tough. And, I mean, he didn't do very well against the Rams. Good morning, Nathan Thomas. Good morning. Glad you're here this early Monday morning. Ryan wants to know, do I think Juwan will lose targets to new wide receivers and other tight ends? He will still have a quality season. Unless we have injuries, he may have a monster season. I do. I actually do think he'll lose targets. However, I think the Saints need him to have similar numbers to what he's been having. Again, last year, breakout season, 77 catches, 889 yards. I think you may see his catches and yards go down just a tick, but you may see his touchdown number go up. He may be more of a target in the red zone. So, again, this is early, and I don't think they have numbers on Juwan Johnson at any of the books, but no, you say no. It's too early for that kind of stuff. They really only have numbers on like the Shucks of the world and the HNs of the world. We'll get to those guys. Obviously, those guys are both on our list. But if I had to make a prediction, again, it's June 29th. I reserve the right to change. But I'm saying I'm looking for maybe 70 catches, 65 to 70 catches, maybe 750 yards. But I think that touchdown number goes up to like 6. So if you're in a fantasy league, here we go with fantasy league. If you're in a fantasy league like I am, where we're a little bit more touchdown heavy, I know people don't play in those leagues a lot anymore. Those aren't fun. We like the leagues where you score 160 points in a game, which is stupid. That's a whole different story. But if you're in a more touchdown heavy league, then maybe Juwan Johnson is a little bit more important this year. If you play in one of those leagues where you get 160 points and you get the full PPR and you get points for this and points for that, Juwan Johnson actually might not be as big in fantasy. But in real football, I think he plays a key role for this Saints team. But again, how much is the help of Fant and Delp going to be there? Now, they're going to play more 3 tight end sets I think than they played before. But also, as Ryan says, the addition of the wide receiver, no question, a much improved wide receiver room. How much will that play a role in Juwan Johnson getting fewer targets? Brother from the 3-1, I did not have Spencer Rattler on my bingo card today. I really didn't. I did not see this. I'm talking about Rattler. It says Rattler doesn't play with confidence. Yes and no. I can't say I totally disagree. I will definitely say this. I think, again, limited sample size. We're going to get into Talishuk later on, obviously. But Talishuk plays with more confidence than Spencer Rattler. I don't think there's any question about that. UBN Salem blame the coaching staff because Rattler can't read it. He does not read a defense very well. I think that's probably his biggest problem. But again, there's a reason why he was drafted. I mean, how many times do you have to say this? It's a reason why he was drafted in the 5th round. Charles Mangus says Juwan is like a more of a big-bodied receiver, can make great plays. And you got to remember, now Juwan Johnson was a tight end in college. I mean, a wide receiver in college. And he was a wide receiver, listed as a wide receiver his first couple years with the Saints. If you go look at Pro Football Reference and you pull up numbers for Juwan Johnson and you look at his first couple years, what does it say? It says wide receiver. It says wide receiver. By the way, you can start commenting now. I know some of you are behind. When you watch a stream, you're a minute or two behind, some of you. So go ahead and start commenting on Kool-Aid McKinstry. He's coming up next. Hart says Spencer Rattler is a quality backup at best. I don't know if he's going to be a part of it. Gabe and I disagree on this. Not that I really want to crawl down that rabbit hole today, but I think Wilson's going to be the backup quarterback. Maybe Hunter Deckers will be. Who knows? Who knows? Sav says, stay away from those caffeine pills. Poor Jesse. Who doesn't love Saved by the Bell? Yeah. Sigh. What else we got here going on? Adam's asking how much was Rattler throwing less than 5-yard passes. Chuck moved the ball down there. Okay, you want me to go back into this? let's see. Let's compare them. I mean, let's see. Shuck threw. He completed 221 passes. Do we have an advanced passer mode? Let me see. Advanced passing. Here we go. Yards per completion. I think that's what this is. Completed air yards per completion. Yards the ball traveled in the air past the line of scrimmage prior to completion. The number for Shuck is 6.0. All right. Let's see what it is for Rattler. You know, we like receipts on this show. We don't. I guarantee you didn't look this up before you just said this out of honor, even if you're right. But we like receipts on this show. In this case, completed air yards per pass attempt, half, 3.0. Now, per completion, it's not quite as different. Yak. He didn't get a lot of yak, though. He got 5 yards of yak. And what did Shuck get? Shuck they both got 5 yards of yak. So the only real difference was yards per completion. It is different. I would encourage you all, though, especially you regulars, if you're going to say stuff like that, you better be right because you know I'm going to look you up. Brother from the 318 says Rattler plays not to lose, Shuck plays to win the game. We play to win the game. That may be true. Okay, I'm bringing Gabe on. He says he's got more advanced passing stats. Go ahead, Gabe. I like it.
I've got an actual stat that makes that argument complete bullshit.
Okay, go ahead.
So there's a stat called IAY/PA, which is intended air yards per pass attempt, which is basically an average depth of target, whether it's completed or not. Tyler Shuck was actually one of the best in the league at this. He was joint 9th with 8.3 intended air yards per pass attempt.
Okay.
Spencer Rattler.
Explain to me with it before you get to smart. What exactly does that mean? Like how far?
Essentially, the stat that you read is depth of completions.
Right.
That is where the pass was. This is of every pass attempt you make, regardless of completion.
Okay. So how far are you trying to throw the football?
Yeah. So
Okay.
So Tyler Shuck, joint 9th on 8.3 yards per intended pass. Spencer Rattler was actually joint 15th in the league among 33 qualified quarterbacks at 7.9.
Yeah, I think
so there's less than a half a yard between.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's like I don't spend a lot of time defending Rattler. We all know. I mean, anybody's watched this show for any amount of time knows that I don't think Rattler is a real quarterback in this league. Shuck certainly has way more potential. Shuck, unquestionably in my mind, is better than Spencer Rattler. However, that being said, I do think that Spencer Rattler probably catches a little bit too much grief. And some of these stats that people just throw out, I think it's not just my own fan. I hear it all the time. I mean, not that he gets talked about a whole lot, but I heard it all the time. We just throw out numbers sometimes because we think we saw stuff.
You ready for this number?
Yeah.
Let's look this up. Do you know who was 33rd among 33 qualified quarterbacks in the league in yak?
Yak. Yeah. Yak is one of my favorite stats, actually. Somebody who didn't have a lot of fast receivers. Aaron Rodgers.
Spencer Rattler.
Really?
Yep. 3.7 yards after catch.
Poor dude had no yak. He couldn't get any yak.
Tyler Shuck was 29th with 4.8.
Because of his crappy receivers.
That is
a damning
indictment.
You got Olave, Juwan Johnson, and nothing else. I mean, nothing else. And not, well, I hate the phrase not to mention.
Aaron Rodgers was actually first.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Okay.
First at 6.5.
How does this comment work? Hart says he thinks the big difference on accuracy was Rattler was tossing short yardage throws. Shuck had good touch on deep throws. Obviously, step up in competition will be key. I mean, if he completed more longer passes,
depth of attempt wasn't that much different.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's not to say that one doesn't have a better deep ball than the other, but once again, it's easier to throw a deep ball when you're getting more separation against bad teams.
All right, we're gonna have you.
We won't get those.
We're gonna have you back on in about 10 or 15 minutes. See you in a minute.
Sounds good.
All right, finishing up here on Juwan Johnson. Jason Benson says Delp is going to be better than we think. He's going to hit the ground running. Remember, he said, "Hey, I think that. Look, I like Delp's possibilities. Okay, I like Delp's potential. I mean, obviously you're looking for a tight end of the future. And when you talk about a Juwan Johnson who is entering his 7th season, he's no young pup either. How old is Juwan Johnson? Is he? He's not 30 yet. Is he? Juwan Johnson is going to be 30 on opening day. And now that I said that, I remember saying it before. So he will be 30 on opening day. It doesn't work the same for tight ends as it does for running backs. So you got a little bit more wiggle room, but you can't imagine Juwan Johnson's going to be around this league too much longer. He signed that extension, remember? That everyone hated that extension that he signed. Does he stick around much longer after that? I don't know. But there's no question, Jason, that Oscar Delp is being groomed as the future big tight end of this team. Does he take over at number? Well, I mean, certainly not going to take over number 1 this year unless Juwan Johnson gets hurt. But are they grooming? Are they going to groom Oscar Delp to be the TE1 as early as 2027? Maybe more likely 2028? Absolutely. I think it could be. Moving on. And again, if we got some more Juwan Johnson comments, I'll show. But Greg Broussard, and I wanted to show this because he says, and this here's where I agree. And I want to get in, I want to spend 10 minutes talking about Kool-Aid. So that's why I wanted to move on. Kool-Aid McKinstry, and Greg says it's got to be Kool-Aid. And I agree. Again, we talk about the depth of this team. We talk about the depth. And where do the Saints have the least amount of depth? It's got to be defensive back. Certainly, be more specific, cornerback. I mean, could you make an argument at safety that the Saints are better at safety? I mean, you can't. I mean, I think you're silly if you don't say the Saints are better at safety than they are at cornerback. I think there's no question that they are. But I also think they have more depth at safety. Not that they have a lot of depth there either. But when you're talking about number 1 safety, and I know each position in the defensive backfield is a little bit different. It's hard to compare them all. But when you're talking about safety as opposed to corner, I mean, who are you going to rely on? Who do you think is more important in this team? Do you think Justin Reed's going to have a better year or Kool-Aid McKinstry? I don't know, but Kool-Aid needs to step up. He's got to be that guy. And if you look at some of these numbers, and again, these numbers kind of surprise me. Can he be a dominant cover corner? I don't know. Because you can't say he was a dominant cover corner before. But he was definitely better. I didn't realize some of these numbers when I looked into it. Entering his 3rd season, okay? As I get a little water here. Another guy that played 17 games last year. Okay? He had 17 pass defenses, at least 1 per game. That's not a bad number. He had 3 interceptions last year, none in his rookie season. He had 76 tackles last year, 42 in his rookie season. And you know, I probably lessened how much interest I have in PFF grades, but I still use them. Again, I thought PFF had a bad year last year. But in the grand scheme of things, I still think they're the best metric when you're trying to gauge players that don't have stats that we think about every day. In other words, non-skill position players. And of the 112 cornerbacks, before I give you the answer, of the 112 cornerbacks, where do you think Kool-Aid McKinstry graded last year? It's an interesting number, and I would not have guessed this. Out of 112 cornerbacks that qualified by whatever metric they use, where did Kool-Aid McKinstry fall? Unquestionably one of the most important things. And I might have him ranked too low. He might be higher than number 13, which is why he's my most important player on this list. I've given you enough time to answer. Is anyone here guessed? If anyone's guessed, go ahead and share some of their numbers. Gabe, because I'm still behind in the comments. I see I'm still on Juwan. Some of these Juwan are still on Juwan Johnson. By the way, Jerry was thinking the same. Excuse me. Karen Rogers. That made me laugh. UBN says 112. You are way wrong. Way wrong. By the way, brother from the 318 says locker room response to confidence. That is definitely true. That's definitely true. UBN also talking about Juwan Johnson. Yak is about putting the ball where a receiver can make a move. It's more a quarterback placement stat. Okay. I can see that, but also Also, Nick, it is you know as well as I do, you can have the best quarterback on planet Earth, but if all you have is a number one receiver and a pretty good tight end, which is what the Saints had last year, and basically nothing else, because Alvin Kamara was at 4.2 yards per touch last year. So he wasn't helping that number at all for either one of those guys. Sav says he's in the 80s, way off. So I'm telling you, I was surprised when I saw this number. Ron Hendricks says 20th. You're much closer than anyone else. The answer is, again, where did PFF have Kool-Aid McKinstry? I mean, this is everybody graded, by the way. In fact, I've got the top 30 that I'm going to click up on here. That's because Kool-Aid is in the top 30. He is number 30. 30. He was 30th last year out of 112. Here are the three guys ahead of him, if you want to know who's around him. Number 28 was Dante Jackson. Remember LSU's Dante Jackson? Riverdale's Dante Jackson? Riverdale High School? Played for the Chargers? Dante Jackson was 28. Joey Porter was 29. Tyson Campbell. I'm sorry, that was 27, 28, 20. Jackson was 27. Porter was 28. Tyson Campbell, 29. Tyson Campbell's a pretty damn good cornerback. The three behind him, Jacob Parrish, Marcus Harris, Tareeb Still. Pretty good cornerbacks. Look at some of the other. Here's the top 10. Devon Witherspoon, James Pierre, Mike Jackson, Jaquan McMillan, Jamel Dean, Quinyon Mitchell, Kamari Lassiter, Kuba DeJean, Javarius Ward, and Sauce Gardner was number 10. I mean, so you're talking about not far down the list. Pat Surtain was 22. Kool-Aid McKinstry was not far down from Pat Surtain. By the way, Alante Taylor, who, you know, was supposedly the big stud in the secondary for the Saints that went off into free agent land. Alante Taylor was 53rd last year. Not too far ahead of Quincy Riley, a rookie, who was 61st. So maybe the defensive backfield for the Saints isn't my problem with the Saints defensive backfield is not necessarily who's starting, although it could be a concern. It's more of the depth. I get it. Emerson could be fine. Great. But I am really worried. I mean, Isaac Yadam, fine. We've had him before. He's, Isaac Yadam's in his 30s. Jason wants to know, is he going to be asked to be a dominant cover corner? They play a lot of zone these days. Good point. But you still have to be, right? I mean, even in the zone, you still have to be. I mean, I don't know. Ryan says Kool-Aid is the most important by a mile. Outside of defensive end, cornerback has to be the next most important position group on defense, maybe tied with interior defensive line. I mean, look, you could make a case, and I hear some people say edge rusher is the most important spot, most important position group on defense. I hear some people say, whatever. You can make a case for a lot of things. I agree with Ryan, by the way. I think cornerback is the most in today's NFL. You could make a case for edge rusher, but I think cornerback is the most important position. Depends on what division you're in too. Who said that name? Lance? Who said his name? Did anyone say? Somebody type it in the comments? I'm sorry. What you want? You want me to ban him? From now on, if you say the DC word, you're banned. Not Diet Coke. Lance says he thinks Kool-Aid got better and Staley's play calling got better. I think Staley was great. It took some time to figure out exactly how these players could fit into his system. That's another thing you got to remember. Last year, I remember this because for those of you new here and you weren't with us during the football season last year, every week on the preview show, we showed you the Saints rankings and where they ranked both offensively against the run, against the pass, and total. Defense, same thing, offense, run, and total. And every week, the Saints' defensive numbers were going up. And it wasn't just because the opposition was getting a bit easier. No, it was because, remember, this was a team in transition with a new defensive coordinator and a very different system. And they were getting used to it. It took them a while. Who's talking about Chauncey Gardner? Who back there? Yeah, no, they're not going to re-sign Chauncey Gardner, Mark. He is now with the Bills. After, by the way, there was a little bit of news. He was complaining about how he got by Houston. So even if he was available, if they re-signed that person, it'd be nice. Turn a new leaf here with a new era, a new day of dawning as we move forward. I'm not going to be as mean to people as I was. How long do we think that's going to last, Gabe? I don't know. A couple days. But I'm not a fan of CJGJ. You know what I mean. Hart talks about how he likes how Quincy Riley progresses. He's going to have to. Quincy Riley, by the way, let's see. Again, live TV. What number did I have Quincy Riley? Number 17 was Quincy Riley. So if you want to see the players that I already did, the 25 through 16, it'll last 20 minutes, Lance. Yeah. 25 through 16, you can go check out on SI. Google Saints on SI, and you can see who I had up there beforehand. All right, what else we got here? We got to get going this morning. I agree, Lance. Sanker is Chauncey without the drama. Brother A from the 318 says, CJGJ is a cancer in the locker room. We don't mean he was born on July 5th. That is the truth. All right. Moving on here this morning. We thank you so much as we get used to our new time. We appreciate you so much. Talk a little bit more Saints, but got to tell you, earlier we told you we would let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family or run a privately held business might be worth, whether it's time to sell. How do they do it? How do they do that, Jim Derry? Well, thanks for asking. After their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanian Nick Braden and the folks at Evangeline, they will begin an extensive auction process from established private equity funds from around the whole wide world. They'll maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities, they're the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area, and 0.0 with their dedication and success. They're fully licensed. They're ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick Braden about what's really important. And it's not about Jim Derry's rankings of the most important Saints. No. You know what's really important? The rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. Still got a little bit of time left. Let's close the poll out. Let's show before we move on, Gabe, let's finish out the poll here this morning. Our question this morning was, which of today's top 15 players, the three top 15 players, that is, he pulled it. He must have not liked it. All right, there we go. Which of the three players of today's most important Saints in 2026 is the most important? Type in the number 1 if you say it's Carl Granderson if you haven't voted yet. Type in the number 2 if you say it's Juwan Johnson after all the talking that we did. Type in the number 3 if you think it's Kool-Aid McKinstry as we're about to move on. By the way, if you're watching this morning, we would appreciate it very much. If you're new here, please subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page if you haven't already done so. And if you already have done so, tell your friends. We're live every Monday and Thursday at 9 a.m. Central Time. And when football season starts, we will also have a live pregame show, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. here on the same channel, talking about the Saints, and, of course, a little bit probably of a review of the LSU and Tulane games the night before. All right, we are going to wrap up the poll here this morning. We got a few late votes. I like it. 31% of you, and let me look at it. I want to see this before. Okay, not too bad. We didn't get as many votes as usual, but it was more than I thought we'd get. Thank you for voting, everybody. 31% of you said Carl Granderson. Let's start with the winner. The winner got a majority. I thought this would be the case, but that's who I voted for. I don't always vote in my own poll, but I did today. Kool-Aid McKinstry got 56% of the vote. Of the most important of McKinstry, Granderson, and Johnson. Carl Granderson was second at 31%, and Juwan Johnson with just 13%. I don't think that's a slight on Juwan Johnson. I think that a lot of you just agree with what we're talking about, and that Kool-Aid McKinstry is just, when you think about the depth on this team and why is Kool-Aid McKinstry the most important, I think it's the case. Great job today, everybody in the poll, and I hope y'all are getting used to the 9 a.m. Hope you get used to the 9 a.m. time. Again, if you can't be here at 9 a.m., I completely understand. I completely get it. But please leave us a comment after the fact. Even if you're watching after, I would love to hear you comment on this. I know it's going to take a while for people to get used to our new time. But we're still going to have Gabe with us. It's Monday. Gabe is having an issue with his internet. All right. I see you in the background. Okay. All right. Well, are you there, Gabe? Shake your head if you can hear me. Nope, he's still. That means he's frozen. He's some internet issues. So we're going to move on without him. We're going to do Dat Date. When you get back, Gabe, just let me know. We're going to do Dat Date in history without him. And it's mostly birthdays. And I kind of put 2 days together. And I'm going to tell you why in just a second. Because there were no real, I like to start off with the local names, the local birthdays out there. The end of June, it's kind of a slow time. Birthday-wise, celebrated with maybe the most important birthday of the group. Tomorrow, June 30th, a man who is near and dear to my heart. I like to start off in New Orleans. There are two local icons. One is a local icon who's also a national icon. Well, I guess they're both kind of national icons in a way. Let's start off with the one that I know least. I've only met him twice, but a great guy nevertheless. Grew up watching him on TV, and some of you older fans of Dat here watched him play baseball. The great Ron Swoboda, former New York Met, who spent time as sports director on Fox 8, turns 82 years old tomorrow. 82 years old. I would love to have Ron. I've thought about asking. I need to get Ron Swoboda on the show. I need to try to get Ron Swoboda on the show. I actually once got to play pitch and catch with Ron Swoboda at a Zephyrs event. I was definitely in my 20s. It's a long time ago. But I need to get Ron Swoboda on the show. For sure. But anyway, also locally with New Orleans ties. Celebrated yesterday at my brother-in-law's house. My brother-in-law, if you don't know, does the intro voice of the show. Phil Anselmo. The great Phil Anselmo. He is 2 months older than me. Turns 58 years old tomorrow. So happy birthday, brother-in-law. 58 tomorrow. Again, we had a great time at his house yesterday celebrating with the family. It was a lot of fun. He's about to go back out on the road again. Heading to Europe. One last with Down. One last trip to Europe, and I think then they come back to the States. They've got a Down show. They got a couple. I think they got a couple more trips with Down, and then another Pantera, short Pantera trip coming up. So anyway, happy birthday to my bro, Bill Anselmo. I think turns 58 tomorrow. Elsewhere in the world of sports, and Gabe just texted me the other way. He's having major internet issues. He is done for the day, so we're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna wrap it up early today. Elsewhere in the world of sports, how about Dan Deerdorf? How many people remember Dan? Do you remember? How old are you? Do you remember Dan Deerdorf as a football player? He turned 77 tomorrow. Dan Deerdorf is 77. It's crazy. Charles Mangan says he liked Ron. He's a good sports guy. Better than Conrad Dobler. Poor Conrad Dobler. Pedro Guerrero, great baseball player. This makes me feel old. I grew up with Pedro Guerrero playing first base for the Dodgers. I mean, this was after Steve Garvey. Pedro Guerrero is 70 years old. Pepper Johnson, linebacker for the New York Giants, 62. You want to feel old? How about this? Kawhi Leonard. You know Kawhi Leonard. Fantastic basketball player. My son said he was one of the best for a long time. 35 years old. Kawhi Leonard is 35 years old. That's today. Tomorrow, There are a couple big birthdays. Here, I'll give you the two biggest first. How about the great Mike Tyson, the greatest boxer of all time? I mean, you could say Muhammad Ali. It's not like other sports I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole this morning. Ryan says his household could not stand Deerdorf as an announcer. He was definitely polarizing. That's a good way to put it. Mike Tyson is going to be 60. Count him, 60 years old tomorrow. That's crazy. God, we're old. Tony Fernandez, great baseball player, was 62. Is going to be 62 tomorrow. How about Michael Phelps and all of his Olympic gold medals? How do you think Michael Phelps is going to be tomorrow? Michael Phelps, 41 years old tomorrow. Long baseball, Trey Turner is 33 tomorrow, as is A.J. Brown. How old do you think A.J. Brown is? Wide receiver. Now for the New England Patriots. 29. A.J. Brown is 29 years old. Lance says the most dominant boxer in his prime, not the greatest. That's a good way to put it, Lance. I could see that. I don't know if I agree with you. I think he's the greatest. But I don't have any. I think that's a very good way to describe him. I don't know. Good way to put it. What about celebrities? Today, nothing major. Gary Busey, little kind of cuckoo, right? Gary Busey's a little cuckoo. But he's 81 years old and he's still kicking. Charlemagne the God, who watches other. You can watch other podcasts. It's okay. It's okay if you watch other podcasts. 47 years old. Tomorrow, remember Lena Horne? It's talking about how old people are. The great Lena Horne. Stormy weather. Yep. She would have been 109 years old tomorrow. She died in 2010 at the age of 93. And then David Allen Greer will be 70 years old tomorrow. Jason says in his prime, Tyson would have knocked out all the greats. I can't disagree with you, Jason. In fact, not only can I not disagree with you, I 100% do agree with you, which is why I think Mike Tyson is the greatest boxer of all time. Now, look, when you talk about greatest anything, I understand there's always a bias or biases, I guess I should say, when you're talking about people from your time, right? Your time. Just like millennials think that LeBron's the greatest basketball player, and most people my age, not all of them, think that know that Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. That's what it is. Similar. Not that I want to go down that rabbit hole again. I know Gary Busey is still alive. That dude, I mean, crazy. Brother A from the 318 said Tyson was the most intimidating boxer without a doubt. Look, I mean, it's either got to be him or Muhammad Ali, right? I mean, you could go down way back in time, and I mean, I was never a huge boxer. Maybe I should ask, and speaking of boxing, I mean, Phil Anselmo actually wrote boxing columns for Boxing Magazine. Did you know that? No, you didn't. Maybe I should ask him who the greatest boxer. I got to be Tyson. Anyway, happy birthday to Mike Tyson. Happy birthday to Phil Anselmo. That is going to wrap it up for us on this Monday. Again, sorry, no Gabe today. Well, no Gabe on screen except for that little brief moment. Had some internet issues. Ali would. Jason says Ali would have ran from Tyson for 15 rounds. I know you meant 15. Yeah. Charles says everybody wants to be Mike. Hey man, I'm just saying. People say there's, what would you do for $1 million? You know the old what would you do for $1 million game? And the question is, would you take $1 million to get punched in the face by Mike Tyson? And the answer is hell no. Hell no. I would not take $1 million because I'd probably be dead. You can't spend $1 million if you're dead. Thank you, S. Callie. Appreciate you so much. I'm going to ask him. I'll ask him what he thinks. Ron says if you had tickets for a Tyson boxing match, you better not be late or you would have missed those knockouts. I mean, what was it? Was it Spinks? There was one of them I remember. I'm going off on a tangent. We're about to end the show. Remember when you had, I guess some boxing matches you still got to get pay-per-view, but a lot of it's on ESPN now. But we bought, I think it was Spinks, right? Who was it? He knocked him out in 91 seconds. We paid all this money, and we had some fun. Paid all this money to have pay-per-view for the Tyson fight, and the fight lasted like 91 seconds. I want to talk about pissed. And this is back, it cost like, I don't know, it was like $60 or something. 35, 40 years ago, maybe longer, whatever. That was a lot of money back then. That was like $200 today, $150, $200 today. Lance would not take the money. No. You'd be an absolute fool to take the money. Spinks. It was Spinks. It was 91 seconds. I couldn't remember for sure if it was 91 seconds, but I couldn't remember for sure if it was Spinks, but I don't know why I remember 91 seconds. J. Tucker Rafferty, thank you for confirming that. Dropped him twice with a body shot. You spent all that money on the pay-per-view and the fight's over. I don't care about the undercard crap. Come on, man. Charles Mangus, thank you so much. Thank you for all the regulars. And look, I know getting used to a new time and the way we do things is a little bit different, and people don't like change and all that, but it is necessary. It is necessary for us to change, to continue doing the show. And this show is, we have worked too hard for this show to go anywhere. And so I had to make some changes to keep it on the air. Here we are, 518 episodes in. We got to do what we got to do, and I think it's going to be better for everybody when we get used to it. Jay says also fastest knockout in heavyweight championship history. Ron Hendrickson joined the new starting time. Thank you. Lance, member. Dattitude member on YouTube. So he got to the fight party, and all the girls were walking out. He was pissed. All the girls were walking out. That's pretty funny. All right. Jason's going to do what I got to do. Moving up in the world, man. I do what's best for like most people do. I do what's best for my family. Family comes number one. And look, it's not just family. The gig that I'm about to take, becoming the news reporter for the Times-Picayune, covering St. Tammany Parish, it's something that, means a lot to me. For those of you that don't know, very briefly before we go off the air, I spent 4 years of my career covering the St. Tammany Parish School Board. Back when we had, 5 full-time reporters and 2 editors, not including the suburban, the community editors. We had 8 or 9 people, reporter-wise, on the journalism side, covering St. Tammany. Not that way anymore, man. So it's a daunting task, but I'm looking forward to it. And I really am fired up about it because I enjoy writing. And one thing that this job is going to allow me to do is spend a lot more time writing, which I'm really excited about. But again, I wanted to make sure the show didn't go anywhere. Here we are at 9 a.m., and that is where we'll stay. We will probably have shows like this, an hour and 15 or so on Mondays, an hour and 15 or so on Thursdays. And then when we do our Saints pregame shows on Sundays, those will probably be 2-hour shows. Those will be our regular 2-hour shows. So looking forward to it. Thursday, we will have a guest. I just don't know who it is. The great Mike Detillier is busy, so he could not do it this Thursday. We'll have him on soon, I promise. We will have a guest Thursday. If you are a member, go into the Slack channel. As soon as I know who the guest is, I will put it into the Slack channel. By the way, all members get access to a members-only Slack channel. But best way to help us is just subscribe first. We'll worry about the membership stuff later. I want to thank Gabe Henderson for helping me behind the scenes, coming on the screen briefly to help us out with that stat about Spencer Rattler. Again, hope you can join us next. Our new day, remember, July the 2nd is a Thursday. That's right. Monday and Thursday now. No longer Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. From now on, Monday and Thursday, live at 9 a.m. We're excited about it. Reminder, we already told you to subscribe. Click the little bell. That also helps out. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. Last comment of the day. Why not? Sav says Lennox Lewis had reach and height advantage. That's the one he thinks is the best. Okay. Lennox Lewis is pretty good. He's British. I'm not going to even try to do a British accent as we go out this morning. Have a great few days. For some of you, enjoy a holiday week. Some of you have a whole holiday week off. I do not, but I'm going to enjoy it anyway. Kiss the ones you love. Hug the ones you love. Tell them all how grateful you are for them in your life. I am grateful for you, and we will see you all next on Thursday. Until then, take it easy, my friends.